So I'm so pleased to introduce, really, this is quite a panel of industry leaders, experts in the space. We're going to start alphabetically. To my immediate left is Earl Collins, who's the CEO of Cordia. Hold your applause until I introduce the whole panel, and then we're going to give them a chance to tell a little bit about themselves. So welcome Earl from Cordia. To his left, Carlisle Catino, who's the CEO of Enwave Energy Corporation, President and CEO. Welcome, Carlisle. To his left, Luke Gelswick, who is the CEO of Evergreen Energy in St. Paul, Minnesota. So Toronto, Minnesota, there is actually cooling in Toronto and Minnesota. To Luke's left is Kevin Haggerty from my hometown of Boston with Vicinity Energy. Kevin is the president and a deputy CEO, I believe, yes?
That's correct.
Welcome, yes. Kevin. And I'm going to come back to a few Celtics trivia questions to you, but to his left, Christina Ho with Con Edison in New York City. Christina is a veteran of the steam business, and I'll share a little bit more about her. She is the secret weapon here today. Christina, oh, no. Setting her up.
No pressure.
To Christina's left is Eric Miller. Eric is the CEO of Centrio. I think he makes home in Houston, Texas. He mentioned to me that Texas A&M won a baseball game last night. So we're happy for that. Go Aggies. Welcome, Eric. And finally, Lisa Sparrow, who's the CEO of Corix. Lisa, so glad to have you and welcome. Let's give our panelists a nice round of applause, if you would. So what I'd like is we'll start backwards. We'll start with Lisa and work our way back. I'd like each of the panelists to share a little bit, tell us a little bit about their system or portfolio of systems, where they're located, the primary technologies, anything interesting, unique. And so I'd like each of them to kind of set the stage for, who we have here representing, I think it's like 60 cities, 60 plus cities, millions of square feet on district energy. Lisa, tell us a little bit about Corix.
Sure, thanks. I would say we might be a bit of the mutt in the organization in that we have got, well, first off, we're in 3 states, about ready to be 4, and 2 provinces in Canada. Our headquarters is actually in Vancouver, British Columbia. And we range from legacy steam systems all the way to kind of next-gen, new greenfield development in terms of looking at all sorts of fuel, really. When we partner with developers, we look at waste heat recovery, sewer heat recovery, we have biomass plants. We really look to see how we can scavenge heat from whatever sources we may be near to provide the most efficient energy source for the development that we're looking at. So we've got quite a range of technologies. We're fortunate in that we have one single shareholder that is a pension fund, and they have a very long-term view to our work, which is quite helpful in this industry, as you know, when the time you start talking about a deal to the time that is actually implemented, having that patient money is super helpful. So we feel like we're in a position to be flexible and generally to meet customers where they are in their decarbonization journey.
Thanks, Lisa. Corix in their portfolio owns the system in Cleveland, Ohio, where I spent 5 years, and she's now dealing with all the bad contracts I wrote with. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Eric, Centrio, tell us a little bit about big portfolio. You were our host last year in Chicago. What's happening, and tell us about Centrio.
Yeah, thanks. I'll start. We're working on our corporate identity at Centrio, so I'm going to use this opportunity to explain the Centrio name, because I don't think we've done a real good job with that, both as a company and kind of out in our industry. But Centrio, I think it's a great name. The Sustainable Central Cooling, Heating, and Power Business. So Central, Trio, Cooling, Heating, and Power. So start there to just give you guys a tidbit on Centrio. We think of our business in kind of a couple ways. Our legacy district energy business, which includes, or nodes, which includes assets in Houston, New Orleans, Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles, Portland. We provide the typical district energy services chilled water, steam, power. And then we go to our concession side of our business, which is a significant part of the Centrio business. We've got 4 significant concessions: Syracuse University, Louisiana State University, or LSU, Eastern Michigan University, which is our most recent concession, and then National Western Center, or Denver. The concession business, I think I can speak for all of us, has had some headwinds, but we're incredibly supportive of it, see it as a real opportunity long term. At Syracuse and LSU, we're in the middle of 2 significant modernization projects, $100 million plus projects at both of those. The LSU project should substantially complete sometime this summer. And then the Syracuse project is slated to complete in 2026. But I believe for not just Centrio or our industry, getting through those sort of projects will be really powerful as it relates to the concession business. So a lot going on at Centrio. On the sponsor side, we got a couple of our sponsors here, QIC and Ulico, very supportive, very collaborative with us, been with us now for a couple of years. We've got a lot going on, on the capital structure side this coming year, but real excited about what's going on at Centrio.
Very good, Eric. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting mix of systems and portfolios and positioning. Yes, so thank you. Christina, tell us a little bit about Con Ed and what's happening in New York these days.
Thanks, Rob. And I don't know what secret I'm supposed to bring to this, so if you could tell me what that is later, I'll be happy
You're on a
to provide
basis.
happy to provide whatever services you need. But Con Edison is an electric, gas, and steam utility in New York. We cover New York City, as well as several counties in New York and a couple of counties for electric service in northern New Jersey. The legacy steam system has been around for 140 years.
She said 140.
Yeah, and it is definitely a system that has experienced some, I want to say, like personality changes over time. And the really nice thing about being, and I appreciate what Attila had to say about being both an electric and a multi-utility service, is that there's a great opportunity for coordinated planning, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the steam system in New York is 105 miles of high-pressure steam mains in Manhattan, primarily. Our customers comprise basically the skyline. So World Trade Center, Empire State Building, Grand Central Terminal. We are also providers of steam, not just for heating, but also cooling, and we provide sterilization for hospitals, as well as humidity control for some of the museums. So the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Natural History Museum, MoMA. I know too many details about their insurance requirements that we could talk about later, but it's a system that is at the heart of New York, and we like to share with the officials there how important it is that the steam system provides the opportunity for that skyline to be free of smokestacks. So the system is in the process of going through its decarbonization planning stage. Since 2005, we've reduced the greenhouse gas footprint by over 50%, and we're looking to continue that journey as we move into what we believe is the future. For Con Edison, steam is an important part of the mix for decarbonization solutions for built cities that are already existing legacy cities. And so we're really looking forward to the conversation today and looking forward to the work that we have to do collectively moving forward.
Thank you, Christina. And Christina raises the point about sector coupling, really the connectivity between steam and electric and gas. And here's the secret. Here's the secret about Christina. So she was the vice president responsible for the steam system. And a couple of years ago, I think maybe 2, Con Edison at the corporate level yanked her by the collar and asked her to come up to the bridge of the aircraft carrier. She's now coordinating strategy for the steam, gas, and electric utility. What are the annual revenues of Con Ed? Like 7, 10 billion?
It's over 12.
Over 12 billion. So she's our secret weapon about where all of this is headed. No pressure. Speaking of legacy systems, over to Kevin in Boston, but at Philadelphia, you have a huge portfolio in vicinity, and really you're sort of moving the curve. Kevin, tell us a little bit about the vicinity systems.
Thanks, Rob. And I like that. Our customers are the skyline. I think I'm going to borrow that. So Vicinity Energy, depending on how you're counting, is the largest or one of the largest owners and operators of district energy systems in the United States. We own and operate 19 different district energy systems in 12 cities. We serve approximately 250 million square feet. We have about 140 miles of total piping that's comprised across steam systems, hot water systems, chill water systems. We have approximately 400 megawatts of cogeneration. I think probably the thing that we're most excited about is we're in the process of electrifying the Boston District Energy System, or the Boston and Cambridge District Energy Systems. So I'm very proud to announce that we are going to be putting online a 42 megawatt electric boiler starting in September. We're actively putting in a steam generating heat pump that is going to be online in late 2027, early 2028. And we are working our way towards thermal storage, and that's becoming online as we approach 2030. We're trying to pace offshore wind. So a lot of change in our systems. I think it's a very, very exciting time for district energy, and I think that we're very proud that we're leading the way in part of that change.
Very good. Thanks so much, Kevin. And we'll hear more about really the transition that is actually underway in Boston. So thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Luke, Evergreen Energy, St. Paul, actually a big and growing portfolio. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what's happening with Evergreen.
Yeah.
Luke Gilswick.
Excuse me, it's Galswick too, by the way.
Galswick, thank you.
Goofy Dutch name, so anyway.
Got it.
Well, pleasure to be here. Looking forward to the discussion today. Again, my name is Luke Galswick, President and CEO with Evergreen Energy. We're based out of St. Paul, the capital city in Minnesota. At Evergreen, our mission is to advance and operate energy systems as a trusted partner so campuses and communities can achieve their goals. We do that through providing an array of services from O&M services to advisory, consulting, system development, and engineering. We're a 160-person company today, growing to a little over 200 by the beginning of next year. We have operations in 5 states. Our largest system, District Energy St. Paul, affiliated nonprofit parent organization, is in St. Paul, largest hot water system in the United States, used to be the largest hot water system in North America. I'm looking at my friend Carlisle here. And so that system, also chilled water system, serves downtown St. Paul and the Capitol complex, approximately 32 million square feet, almost 200 buildings, including an additional 300 single-family homes. Utilize on the heating side a combination of biomass combined heat and power. We have a 25 megawatt electric cogen unit. We sell power to the local electric utility. Coincident with that, can generate up to 55 megawatts of thermal energy that we move into the hot water system. The balance of the heat over the course of the year, the cogen unit provides about half of the heat, and so the balance is provided with natural gas and fuel oil fired boilers in combination with a 1.2 megawatt solar thermal array. On the cooling side in St. Paul, we utilize a combination of electrical centrifugal chillers and thermal energy storage to serve the cooling system. And so outside of District Energy St. Paul and the affiliated cogeneration unit and biomass operations, we operate an additional 8 District Energy systems, soon to be 11, across the 5 states in which we operate college campuses, healthcare campuses, central business districts, using an array of technologies from geothermal to CHP. And then on the development side, I'll mention quickly, we are focused in our pursuit of geothermal. We're in the process or moving toward commissioning of Oberlin College's geothermal system that will supply heating and cooling to the campus. Moving into that phase of the project with the project partners later this year. And we have 2 network geothermal projects, smaller geothermal projects that I'm excited to talk a little bit more about today, one in Minneapolis and one in St. Paul. And then beyond that, I'll say we're focused on our pursuit of large-scale wastewater heat recovery. in Duluth and St. Paul. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about that as well.
Luke, a lot of arrows in the quiver, really. Well done. Thank you very much. Thanks, Luke. And over to you, Carlisle. Enwave, what's happening in Toronto and beyond?
Well, I'm going to start by saying I am dreading seeing the pictures of us sitting up here because I'm so uncomfortable trying to figure out what position to sit in. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I am frozen in time. I am not going to move from this position. Hopefully, I don't look like a goof. Thank you very much. And I'm also going to say, I just saw one of my colleagues, Carson Gemmel, roll in here, a little hungover. It's his birthday today.
Hey.
So stand up, Carson. There we go. Wish him a happy birthday. And thank you for showing up, Carson, to see your CEO speak. Well, again, thank you for being here. Really excited. I'm listening to my colleagues speak up here, and all I can feel is we're more the same than different. We operate in different locations, but I think we all have sort of the same aspirations. It's about scale, it's about energy transition, it's about pushing the needle, pushing the envelope, and creating value for our shareholders. And varying shareholder base, but certainly similar aspirations. At Enwave, I've been with Enwave for 11 years. Over that time, we've transitioned significantly from a Toronto-based business, 14 locations across North America, back to about 5 locations in Canada, now up to 7. We have over 20 million square feet under development currently that we've committed to, 500 million in projects, $1 billion in a backlog that we're looking to figure out how the hell we're going to build with all of the different factors out there with interest rates and inflation and all the other things that are out there. But we're going to do it, just like many of my other colleagues out here are going to figure out how to get things done because it's the right thing to do. This year is a very special year for us. Jewel of our portfolio is Deep Lake Water Cooling. It's our 20-year anniversary. It was commissioned back in 2004. This year, we're also commissioning our 4th intake, which is a new intake pipe in the Lake Ontario, which is going to cool downtown Toronto, increase our capacity by 40%, which is a huge milestone in our development. When we first put Deep Lake into the lake and commissioned that project, we were owned by the city and the municipality, 50%. This time, 100% private. We jumped through the hoops and we made it happen in a commercial manner with great partnerships and great aspiration and a great team, many of who are sitting here today. So a big year for us. We operate, obviously, district energy, and we operate it at scale. We look at ourselves, and I'm going to steal this from Rob, because I think Rob stole this from me.
Steal it back.
We aggregate load, we integrate low carbon technologies, and we do it in an innovative way. And I think we all do that same thing. And when I say integrate low carbon technologies, I think all of us have the aspiration or operate very similar technologies, energy from waste, biomass. We're developing wastewater heat recovery right now for 60 million square feet of development, deep lake water cooling, heat pumps at scale, big electric boilers, combined heat and power. So there's a lot of value to us being together and talking together to leverage how we can actually keep doing this better and better. We also have a few other different business models that we've pushed out there. We see ourselves as an extension of our customers' businesses, and we have to service them wherever they go. So we have a single building geo business, Enwave Geo Communities, that we launched a couple years back, and we've had some success in deploying that technology. And we also have a business that we're launching this year, Enwave Grid Solutions, where we're looking to be a holistic energy partner to all our stakeholders. So whether it be grid-based electrical solutions, integrating thermal with electrical, but thinking about energy holistically. We all know the economy is electrifying. We can all complain about it, or we can all be a part of that solution and figure out how to do it the best way possible with the tools in the tool belt we have, which is a big one, being district energy. So we're going to be part of that solution where we operate, and we got a lot on the go, thinking through battery storage, thinking about biomass electrical, thinking about energy from waste. And I think energy from waste is a big one because it's a not in my backyard idea. However, it's something, waste is a real problem. It's a real challenge. And when you solve multiple challenges, you create maximum value. And so that's what we're here for. Really excited for the conversation, and I feel like I'm going to get the hook any second. So,
Thanks. You really have helped set the stage, Carlisle. And I'll admit, I did hear Carlisle use this phrase in Colombia. We were in Colombia in September last year, and he said, aggregate, integrate, and innovate. Really, I think that's where we're headed. Thanks, Carlisle. And finally, over to Earl at Cordia. Big portfolio, real mix. What's happening with Cordia, Earl?
Well, I think much like Centrio, a lot of people don't know our name, but if you've been coming to District Energy or this conference as long as Rob has, you know, it probably was Xcel Energy, a lot of our systems, yeah. NRG, Clearway, so we're Cordia now. The same company, I mean, it's been around for over 100 years, but, you know, a lot of name changes. You know, a lot like my colleagues here, we have 16 systems that are in 11 different locations spread all across the country, from San Francisco and San Diego all the way to Princeton, New Jersey, and Pittsburgh, and a little bit in between. You saw some of the folks last night come up here. Our Minneapolis system is one of our largest systems, if not our largest system. I think the folks that we have in Pittsburgh are making a run at that. We just had a recent acquisition in Pittsburgh where we acquired some systems and also a microgrid for the Pittsburgh airport. So Mark Schneider and his team in Pittsburgh are making a run for the biggest system, I think. But we, you know, at our heart, we're a district energy company. That is what we do. I think just like, you know, Carlisle was saying, you know, we're really looking to innovate our systems and take them to a new level. We've got a really interesting project in San Francisco, and if you were at Campus Energy, hopefully you got to tour the plant there, but we're looking to make electrified boiler system and make green steam for that town, which is making a comeback. The other markets that we're in are microgrids, so we own a few of those. We have one at the Princeton, at the hospital there, and as I mentioned, at the Pittsburgh airport. But we're also into fuel cells. We have fuel cells that we own. And you know, like some of the other people on this panel that you heard about, I mean, we're very much into organic growth and trying to grow in those 16 systems that we do have, but we're also acquiring. We're owned by KKR and their infrastructure fund, and so they're very anxious to see if we can grow the system. And we're going to do that through acquisition as well, but also development. So that's the next phase of our company is we're looking to stand up a development team and really start to develop projects throughout the country.
So interesting, Earl. Really, three legs of a stool: organic growth, acquisition growth, and development growth. So really, I think that if Darwin would say that's a very healthy approach, right? Not relying on a single leg of a stool. Thanks a lot, Earl, and thank you again for your hospitality in San Francisco. You're really, really moving the needle there. So thank you. How about this panel, huh? Pretty good, right? Right? I know, I appreciate them being available and being uncomfortable for the next 40 minutes or so, Carlisle. I don't get a chance to do that very often. But, so the theme for this conference is district energy for sustainable cities, right? And we've all heard the term energy transition, right? The world is changing. But is the energy transition a challenge for district energy, or an opportunity, or both? Who'd like to start? Kevin.
I think it's an enormous opportunity. And I think we're proving, I mean, it's a challenge, and all change is a challenge, right? But I think we're proving up in Boston that it is an enormous opportunity. And I said this at one of the opening workshops. District energy shines in times of change. Many of our systems started as coal plants back in the early 1900s. They moved over to oil in the 1950s, and in the oil embargo in the 1970s, moved over to natural gas. With the deregulation of the electric markets in the 1990s, we started to see large cogeneration units come and feed the district energy systems. So every several decades, the district energy systems go through a change. And right now, we're facing that next change. And one of the tenets as to why district energy has been around, I think, for so long is because it is always easier in these times of change to change it at the central district energy facility than it is to change it on a building-by-building basis. It is just enormously complicated to go into every building with tenant disruption, changing the utilities. It's a lot easier for us to change it on the district energy system at the central energy plant. We can do it quicker, we can do it less costly, and we can typically do it more efficiently. So I think change is very good for the district energy business, and we plan to prove that out up in Boston.
Thanks, Kevin. Lisa, thanks very much. Lisa, and then Carlisle. Lisa.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it is a huge opportunity. You know, sometimes businesses, if they're not forward-thinking enough, they're zigging when the world is zagging. I think we are zigging when the world is zigging, and as more development comes up in live, work, play areas, this idea of having having the right infrastructure in the building and being able to change the source of supply on the back end really is the way we're gonna, I think it's one of many ways that we're gonna make it through this energy transition. I think the way people talked about transition just a few years ago, well, we're gonna electrify everything, or we're gonna do, and people have been looking for silver bullets. And I don't think there are any silver bullets. And to have systems where we can have the right infrastructure in the ground and to the building and in building, and then be able to change that generation source, I think is really, really key. I do think, you know, the challenge will be around the right people to be able to do that. They're not unicorns, but you do have to have the, you know, the people who can have that conversation in a way that people will understand it, understanding both kind of the technical side as well as the commercial development side of it. And I also think that we're going to need to see a regulation catch up with it. You know, we're in a lot of different areas, and in some places you have more sophisticated regulation, in some places you have none. Like all utilities in their early development, these things will start to align over time, and I think that we as an industry are going to need to play a role in helping shape that, and we're going to need to do that with one voice. But I think it's a huge opportunity versus a challenge.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Carlisle, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, so a great opportunity, and not just an opportunity, it's just a responsibility and a necessity. However, I will come in with a contrary point of view, is the challenge is real. When we talk about challenge and we talk about energy transition, we think about how we're structured as an industry, how many of us are structured as commercial operators. We have stakeholders, we have shareholders, we have to show returns, we have to show the value, we have to do this on a commercial basis. You know, as my colleague said, there's no magic bullet to all of it. When you operate big systems and you can change things at a central plant, you can definitely make it happen, but there's a business model that has to follow it. People have to want it, people have to pay for it. We have to show value in everything that we do. We got to prove out value. I think now with the economy where it is, and I'm not sure it's at its worst point. It might get worse before it gets better. We're in a position where 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where everyone was gung-ho on doing X, Y, and Z, they're taking a little bit of a pause and rethinking about what their priorities are, and sustainability isn't always one of them that hits the top. Some of it is literally, I don't have people in buildings, so I'm not going to spend a lot of money on buildings, making it a net zero building, because I'm not sure if they're going to come back, or if I'm going to tear it down, or if I'm going to transition it to residential. So we're in a place where we have a great asset base. We have a lot of flexibility. We have the ability to future-proof. We just commissioned a net zero building, with my colleagues we'll talk about, off of our a 92-year-old hotel in Toronto that was commissioned as net zero off of our solution, our N-Wave Green Heat solution, just the other day or a couple months ago, which is a great accomplishment. But it really takes a lot of parties. It takes the development side of the community, the asset managers and the energy developers, and a lot of aspirations and teamwork to get these things done. So yes, the opportunity is huge. Yes, we have the ability to do that with the assets that we have. A lot of things got to align, and you know, with regulation, when you're a blunt force object, there's people that will follow it because the market signal says yes, you must. But then there's others that will do the minimum just because it costs them money, and they know they have to do it. It's not something they want to do. I've heard a lot of people in the last 2 days talk about education and how important it is for people to be educated on what district energy is. And I don't know that regulation educates. I think regulation swings a hammer. So there's a little bit of nuance I think we should all think about, understand the challenge is real, and that's why we're all here, because the challenge is real.
And certainly, there's a fair amount of risk and uncertainty and turbulence, right? You mentioned COVID. Lisa mentioned the people challenge. Kevin, solving the problem at the central plant really does make sense. But Earl, at Cordia, how are you looking at this stage of transition? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to tag on to something that Lisa said, and she talked about one voice, and I really do believe that. I think the thing that we can do, not only at Cordia, but as IDEA, is really to depoliticize this issue. I mean, this isn't a red or blue issue. I mean, this is facts about how the world is evolving and what we can do. So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that this group, this organization can do, is really talk about an energy transition around what's happening and what we can do as an organization. And so part of what I'm doing as the CEO of Cordia is really trying to go out and talk to people that have influence in the communities we're in and try to get their buy-in into what we're trying to do.
And so really it's education and appreciation for how your businesses can support moving cities to a more sustainable future.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Luke, I know that District Energy St. Paul has really been sort of at the forefront. You're sort of the Gretzky of District Energy, right? Skating to where the puck is going to be. What are your thoughts on the transition?
So I like how Kevin talked about the evolution of district energy systems over time, and the imperative that we have as an industry to stick to that approach in the midst of the energy transition that we're in, and thinking about District Energy St. Paul specifically in the origin story of going from a once through late 1800s once through coal-fired steam system to a hot water, to the largest hot water system, and the technology evolutions that have since taken place with District Energy St. Paul over its 40-plus year history, adding combined heat and power in 2003, adding thermal storage, et cetera. And so as we think about the next phase of innovation or evolution for District Energy St. Paul, and thinking about how this fits into the broader context of the question and the opportunity we have as an industry within the energy transition, we're looking very seriously at wastewater heat recovery from a nearby wastewater treatment plant that's discharging 180 million gallons per day of 70-degree Fahrenheit water into the Mississippi River. And so we're in the process of pursuing funding to be able to develop a project that would recover that heat with large industrial heat pumps, move that hot water the 3.5 miles from the wastewater treatment facility to downtown St. Paul, and move that heat into the system. Coincident with that 60-megawatt waste heat recovery project, we're looking to install a 30-megawatt electric boiler and hot water storage. And between those two projects, we would effectively decarbonize heating in St. Paul, 32 million square feet. Comparing that to the alternative of electrifying individual buildings and thinking about the value proposition that we have for the community of St. Paul, there's an industry colleague of ours, a guy by the name of Nicholas Fry, works for Jacobs Engineering, put it really well when he said the highest value unit of renewable electricity is the unit that goes to the most efficient system. And so as we think about electrification of our society, build out of renewable capacity on the grid, installation of additional transmission and distribution infrastructure to get that power to where it's needed, we as an industry really are a linchpin to ensure that we're using every kilowatt hour of renewable electricity in the most efficient manner possible by recovering waste heat, by sharing heat, and using the most efficient systems.
So what I'm hearing from you, Luke, is that we have the technology.
We do.
And we actually have the will, we have the resources, and we have the market. It will take some bold strokes and some ambition. Let's talk for a moment. We heard, I think Lisa mentioned this notion of electrify everything, which sounds so pithy, right? But really it's impractical in its rawest form. And how important is resilience? How important is energy security? How important is sector coupling, being sort of the last mile solution for, these dense cities. Christina, any thoughts on that? I mean, no? Okay, very good.
Pass. Next question, Rob.
She got me, yeah.
Next question. Yes, so, I've been listening to what everyone's been saying on the panel, and it really feels like I'm sitting at like a family reunion with my cousins, because we've been talking about a lot of the same things at Con Edison, and I just want to give like a little bit of context to like how big the transition truly is if you talk about what the electric sector is going to be absorbing. So in New York in specific, the electric grid represents about 20% of economic energy usage. By the time you absorb a lot of the transportation, as well as some of the heating in the state, you could go anywhere from 50 to 70% of the economy being represented by the electric grid, right? So, and then you talk about the fact that if you start absorbing heating, you become a winter peaking system, particularly in our part of the country, where it is gets significantly colder than it does get hotter relative to the ambient temperatures you want. So the challenge there is, you ask a customer, any customer, do you support clean energy, clean transition? They say, absolutely. Every single one will say that. I say, how much are you willing to pay for that? Right? And what's most important? And when customers start ranking what's important to them, it's safe and reliable first always. Right? And then resilient, because the climate is driving more extremes. And so the solution to the energy transition, that was exactly right. There's no silver bullet here. This is going to be kind of like an all hands on deck. What are the right combinations of choices that give you the most cost-effective solutions in the right places? And so for us, one of the fortunate things is that I have the responsibility of doing the coordinated and integrated planning, but it's not just integrated planning at the utility, right? So we need to be collaborating with the Department of Environmental Protection and the sanitation systems. We need to be participating with the city and their buildings departments and their Department of Design and Construction. And in that way, we will be able to start to put together kind of more integrated location-based planning, and I think that's what's going to help us move the needle, because the way that we have operated in the past is a customer will come to you, and by the time the customer's made decisions, like you're behind.
Yeah.
And today, if you need a power transformer,
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. I could tell you, we're part of what we're working on is not just the plan, but also the supply chain needs. We're no longer like the cool kids. Even as Con Edison, we thought we were like this. We have the ranking. There's entire countries that are buying up.
Yes.
Right, collectively for their country's transitions and their power needs. And so there is a level of integration and collaboration needed now more than ever. And I think an entity like IDEA has the power to bring the knowledge to the right people in the right places as to what a district system can provide as a solution in the right places. And it's not going to be the solution in every single place, but neither is electrification of heating, neither is electric vehicles. They're not going to be the same solution in California as they are in Maine or Canada, right? So the real issue is we have to figure out what's the right thing for the right place, figure out what the existing assets can provide, and then what do you need to do to move the needle forward in each of the areas.
And so is the needle carbon, is it really kind of decarbonization? Is that sort of the point of the sword here? And what are the forces sort of driving this? Is it policy from on high, right? Is it sort of global climate change, I believe is real, I have for 50 years. Is that the reality? Is it state policy and the headwinds of gas? Is it your local city council and the mayor? Is it your customers saying, my tenants want to occupy low carbon space. You have to help me because I can't do it alone. I forget who mentioned that, you know, we're not really sure our tenants are coming back at the same scale that they were here. I'm going to go to Lisa and then Eric. I'd like to hear from you. Lisa.
So I think the short answer is it's all of the above. You have to have an environment that is conducive. You need all of the right policies in place. You need to make sure that you have an educated public, an educated developer, you know, that's going to put all of these pieces together. In terms of, you know, how you bring those things together, and this goes to something that Carla was talking about, is you know, how different businesses are going to be changing in that process. And as you start to put a development together, that collaboration becomes really critical. You know, we're working on a development right now, which is a bit of a kind of a dream development, you know, for the work that everyone in this room does. But it's a heck of a lot of coordination, right? It's like, well, okay, well, what policies, what permits are we going to need? What types of tax incentives are there? What tenants are we going to have? You know, do we have a strong anchor tenant? Because if we don't, then we're going to have to go this route. And so everybody's got to be rowing together to make sure that we get there into the one project. I was listening to a premier of British Columbia not that long ago, talking about it, you know, in terms of if the objective is decarbonization, how do we work together to bring it all together, right? We're not living in a Ziploc bag just over our community. And so we've got to think about, you know, the broader implications, and in terms of, if I can offset this, what could we do over here? And so it's not just one, it's everybody, and it requires that creativity to look at the point Christine made in terms of, you know, these specific, every development, every situation, every community is going to be different in terms of what's possible and what's needed. And it's going to take a lot of really creative people and leadership out of this room, because there's probably not going to be a ton of leadership. You know, I mean, it can, but it's going to largely come from the people in this room to drive it to where we need to go.
So what I'm hearing, Lisa, is like a 4-level chessboard now, right? It's like, you know, we're in the matrix world of energy. Eric, I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of risk here, right? And there's a whole sort of stakeholder set, right? You have investors, you have the communities where you operate, you have the customers that rely on you. You know, how are you sort of navigating this, you know, this path? How are you paddling this boat?
Yeah, well, there's a lot in that question right there.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right. Carlisle picked up on it. I mean, one thing that, and Christina mentioned a lot of important things that impact the customer's decision. One thing that's out there is the economic realities of where we sit.
Right.
The high interest rate environment that we've been in for a couple years is a significant headwind in so many different ways. And so that to me, when I think about, you know, the customer and what's driving the customer, in a lot of cases it's still economics, budget certainty, those sort of things. Right. And so that, you know, when we think about decarbonization, and I look at our business, you know, we've got systems across the U.S. New Orleans and Houston is a different market than Seattle is.
Yes.
Right? And so, you know, it's influenced in so many different ways. But I still think, you know, when you look at it, one of the challenges we have as an entire industry is the economics of energy transition. Right. Whether it's with it, and look, I think District Energy, we find ourselves in a really good spot in that regard because we can be nimble. There was a power conference, the Platts Power Conference in Las Vegas 3 months ago, right? I guarantee they were having the same conversation. And when you take a step and look back at the entire infrastructure of energy and the challenges thereof, we haven't seen significant low growth in 20 years. Right. Okay, so how are we going to keep up? It starts kind of on the power generation transmission side, and that creates real opportunity for us and the technologies that we provide and the smaller scale opportunities, the microgrids, distributed generation, that sort of thing.
You know, I couldn't agree more. And Attila mentioned here in Orlando, right? Their growth is like 2% a year, and we're all reading the headlines where, you know, I think the electric industry 5 years ago was looking at, you know, sort of a declining curve, and now it's accelerating with AI, all of these factors. Luke, how do we think about sector coupling and really this, the role we play in the transition?
Yeah, I would like to, I'll come back to that, Rob, but I would
Please.
like to piggyback off of a couple of comments that Lisa made. And on the policy side, we certainly think it is in all of the above, federal, state, and local level, but thinking about the stakeholder piece too, and the community champion in the context of developing a new system. And so we're working on a brownfield project in St. Paul, aquifer thermal energy storage based network geothermal system that will serve 10 buildings, approximately 1 million square feet. So a little smaller development relative to the size of systems that we're talking about today. But what's interesting about this project and thinking about policy and community champions working together is the master developer for the project, when they acquired the property several years ago, set out sustainability objectives for the development. From building performance standards to emissions, et cetera. And over the course of time, in working with prospective developers, a business as usual approach to heating and cooling was starting to gain momentum. Well, it was the community, the surrounding area that got wind of that momentum and rallied around the city of St. Paul and two council members within the city to champion a district energy solution for the development. And that really was what propelled it forward in the context of the tax incentives provided by the Inflation Reduction Act and within the context of the Minnesota Climate Finance Innovative Authority, MNCIFA, the green bank that Minnesota stood up out of the 2023 legislative session. So it was interesting to see all of that really come together to make the project move forward.
So they were sort of falling back in their comfort zone, sort of business as usual, but you had the community sort of leveraging, look, we're serious about our future and we want a more sustainable solution from you in our, yes?
Yes, yep.
Now, Kevin, you're experiencing a similar thing, I think, in Boston, right? And it's not, and it didn't happen by coincidence, right? It's required education and information. System tours, really helping them kick the tires. How important is activating, sort of the local community to be an informed champion? Is that something we should all be doing?
It's enormously important. I can't overstate the importance of being involved in the community and the regulatory process. And for one reason, the most important reason I think is to tap onto the question you asked earlier, Rob. What does the sustainability mean? Is it carbon? Right. And by and large, it is carbon. But what is considered decarbonized is different for different areas. So if you go over to Europe, biomass and biogenics is considered decarbonized in many areas of the states. But if you go to some cities, for example, up in Boston, up in the Northeast, some of the other cities we do business with on the East Coast, biomass and biogenics and waste to energy are not considered carbon-free. Right. In many areas, nuclear is considered carbon-free or may not be considered carbon-free. So you have to be involved early on with the regulatory process in the community, and you have to read the room as to what is going to be accepted as a decarbonizing means, and you have to plan around that. Because if you put all your eggs in one basket around waste to energy, and it looks like waste energy is not going to be viewed as a sustainable or carbon-free energy source, you can really work yourself into a corner with your district energy system. So I think it's very important from that aspect. And I think it's also just very important, one of the great things about being in the district energy business is you're part of the neighborhood, you're part of the city. And I think that being focused on profit and being focused on ensuring that we're returning for our shareholders is very important, but also part of running a good business is just being a good neighbor. Right? Making sure that you're taking the absolute care of the facility, making sure you're taking care of the river that you touch, making sure that you're staying a good member of that city. And I think being part of those conversations, being part of those groups, and being viewed as a good neighbor goes a long way when ultimately it comes to a point where you have to make a change to your facility or you have to expand your system to meet whatever the city's sustainability goals are.
So very good point, Kevin. Thank you for that. And I mean, again, the theme for this conference is district energy for sustainable cities, right? So what is a sustainable city? Is it economically sustainable? Is there a workforce? Is the energy infrastructure resilient and reliable? I mean, what I'm hearing from all of you, I think is really the path forward is a hybrid future. Maybe not buying the EV, but kind of having a few different assets in your mix so that you can be responsive and participate. Anyone kind of share that view? Lisa?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I really hate the word sustainability. It's something that it's so easy for people to kind of try to simplify in their mind, and it conjures up all sorts of things. But we were talking about it last night, my team, in terms of sustainability really being kind of a three-legged stool around economic policy, social policy, environmental policy, and that they all have to be able to work together. I would go as far to say is that I think the economic policy is the strongest leg of that stool. It has to be supportive. The reality is that I'll just speak for our company. I have a single shareholder, so the feedback loop is really quick in terms of this is what we're interested in, this is what we're not. And I do have a shareholder that wants to stay very focused on being part of that low carbon transition. But it also has to work economically, and we have to have policies that do that. And the province that I live in is a great example of that, where by having some imbalance in the stool, in that I think we've got the right ideas about supporting climate change and low carbon reductions and a lot of great policies. At the same time, we've got policies in place that when you actually layer on the economic side of that, then from a GDP per capita, it's kind of sending us straight into a recession, or at least a personal recession, kind of a GDP per capita type of situation to achieve the goals that we're setting up. So all of those things really have to be integrated in such a way that in perpetuity that we can deliver the solutions that we all need.
So there's a continual balancing required, right? I mean, read the room, understand where the market's headed. Carlisle, thank you, Lisa. Carlisle, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to spit out a whole jumble of thoughts here based on what everybody was saying. But as thinking about regulation, as thinking about being a part of the community and a stakeholder and having your voice heard that Kevin was speaking about, it's obviously very important because there's very few people that are true to the cause and what's right in defining what is the right thing to do, right? So everybody has to advocate for themselves. And there's a lot bigger industries that are going to be out there advocating with big voices. And it's really important for us to be out there collectively to have a big voice and to advocate and support each other. I think it's interesting with that, just to share a little experience of what happened in Ontario recently, one of the provinces where we operate, is that the gas utility went in for a rate filing. They went to first try, and typically I think they amortize their new infrastructure over 40 years. They were given advice to go down to 25 years, and then the regulator actually said you can't amortize any new connections anymore. Must be an upfront payment, whatever, $5,000, $10,000 per home. Wow. So the homeowner has to pay for it if they want natural gas for their home, wow, which was really big, really, really big. And I don't know that it was the right thing to do. It is hugely a social experiment of what's going to happen from here. I don't think anyone has it figured out. Now, the province got involved and politics got involved, and the Minister of Energy overturned the whole thing. So they overturned the independent regulator that effectively reports into them, and then there became obviously a lot of controversy around there as like who's making the decision, who's independent, and how are we running our politics versus our regulation, and the whole how does the system work if we're going to overrule the regulator. And I think that where I go with this is that there's a lot more to think about it as you think about a sustainable city, one that thrives very long term. I learned a lot when I had the opportunity to go out to COP28 with Rob and our friends from Empower and Ahmad, and did our panels out there and presented, and learning about the question as you bring the world together. You talk about the future, you talk about economic prosperity, you ask people to sacrifice their current economic prosperity for future prosperity with very little incentives to do so, and it becomes there's no right and wrong in this. It's how do you affect change appropriately? How do you align people? it's a challenge. It's a challenge to think through. We struggle with it in Canada. As in Alberta, we produce a lot of oil, and there's a lot of people that say that the world still needs a lot of it, and we should be producing it. And others people say we should be shutting it down. Carbon capture seems to be something that's getting very popular to allow it to maintain production and mitigate the effects of the environment. But I don't know, and I can't speak educated, but just like many other technologies that are in favor, nuclear is in favor right now, definitely in Canada. Some people think it's low carbon, other people don't. And those winds of change happen, and when you're building 40, 50, and 100-year assets, we got a problem, right? When we think about it that way. So a lot of moving parts. I think the message that I certainly have is we can't be blind. We have to acknowledge that there's different points of view, and they're real, and people have the right to have them, and we have to figure out how to work together to sway it the best way possible in a direction that satisfies, that's valuable to our industry, and to be valuable to our industry, it has to be valuable to all stakeholders. So.
And therein lies the challenge, I think, really that we're all facing, sort of balancing this. Earl, I'd like to come to you, and we have like 7 minutes left, which is really unbelievable to me. But
by the way, both my feet have fallen asleep.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'd like to close with really sort of two loaded questions. One, so why would investors put their capital in district energy? Like, why should people be investing in this space? And then two questions. And then if you were talking to a young person, what advice would you give them if they want to make a career where they can affect change? Is district energy a good place to make a difference? Two questions, Earl, over to you. And I'd like for everyone to try to respond to that in the 6.5 minutes left.
Okay, so I guess the first part I'll be quick since I have a minute, but yes, I think it's a great place to invest. I mean, this group is evidence. It's grown, right? I mean, it's part of our culture in the country. I mean, the energy system is not getting smaller; it's getting bigger. I mean, you don't have to look at the news and see what data centers are doing to the whole dynamic within the country. So I think it's a great place to invest, and I think district energy and microgrids are certainly part of that solution, and will be a good investment for our sponsor companies, but in general.
And then, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Please, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to go to the next one. But
yes, exactly. Yeah.
And as far as people, I mean, just look across the board. I mean, we all come from different backgrounds.
Right.
I mean, I have an engineering background. He has an accounting background. He's an accountant. I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, and I think it's a big tent. I think district energy and energy in general has a place for anybody who's passionate about it. Certainly, if you want to be part of sustainability, and I think a lot of the people that I talk to, and a lot of our customers are universities. Their students are interested in demanding. So I think there's a place for everybody who has a passion for energy or decarbonization or sustainability.
Really, so young people, I think, I don't mean to generalize, but mission focused, right? And so what better place than district energy where you can do it a city, a campus, a community at a time? So how do we attract the next generation to this space? Anyone have a thought on that? Yes, Kevin.
One of the big changes that we've seen with attracting new talent is the renewable, sustainable approach. Many of the younger talent coming out of the universities, they want to participate in the green transition.
Yes.
And being able to show that you're going to be part of that green transition has become a driving force for us bringing new talent into the organization.
Yes. And just a liner note, so I did research on the greenhouse effect in 1978. I was a student at Tufts University, I got a summer internship, and I had an epiphany about climate change. This is nearly 50 years ago. Over to Christina, young people, talent. Con Ed is a great place to come and make a career. Can you make a difference in a situation like that?
Yeah, so I wanted to touch on a couple of things real quick. Number one was back to the conversation about stakeholders and partners is the workforce development aspect of all of the companies that are represented here is an important part of bringing new talent on board because so many students just don't have any idea what actual jobs are at all. And so exposure to that is really, really important. And so we have done a lot of things in terms of workforce development for skilled labor, as well as engineering partnerships with both high schools and colleges locally. I am now serving on the New York City Workforce Development Board, representing the entire company, but also the district system. And then the other piece that I've liked to say to people, if you look at the leadership within Con Edison, and I suspect this is similar in a lot of places, is that people who have spent time early in their career in a district system setting learn a lot really quickly and have a broad base of knowledge that is applicable in so many different spaces. And so then they leave and they go to another utility or another company or an engineering firm or vice versa. And that opens up such a wide world of career opportunities to do the mission-driven work across multi-sectors.
So really, you have a farm system of talent and skill sets, really, that are occurring at this sort of granular level. Eric, yes, please.
I love the way you were talking about kind of diversifying. I think all of us have been in the energy business for a long time, and this probably isn't going to be a surprise coming from a finance and accounting guy. But if you're in the energy space, your financial acumen is huge.
Yes.
You've got to have some general analytical understanding and interest in it. You can't get away from it. I've got a son that's going to do marketing and sales, and he says he's doing it because he's not good at math. And it's like, you can't run from it. No matter what you're doing, you can't run from it. So.
Yeah, you have to be able to add 3 columns and divide sometimes. Yes, Lisa, over to you. Thanks, Eric.
So I agree with the earlier comment that it's a huge tent, right? There's a role that everyone can play. Certainly the financial side of it. I think the industry as a whole just lends itself to people who are interested in naturally innovative, creative people. Just something as basic as communications, right? Like we're all, I'm just gonna say, older than probably the average general population. And young people that can help us even focus on social media and communications. And there's a theme here, right, in terms of we have got to educate people about what it is we do. And so we really need everyone to be able to do that. I think from the investment side of things, the last thing I would say about why it's a great place to invest is I think that it's undeniable that generation is not going to be able to kind of keep up with in terms of the demand and what is needed. And district energy and the idea of the sector coupling really kind of brings it all together in such a way that it's symbiotic and that we can help support the changes in that area. And when there's an opportunity like that, to me, that just screams opportunity for investment.
And so really, we fit right in the middle of the value chain. Yeah, thanks very much, Lisa. Luke, you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I think you described it well, and just to piggyback off of what Lisa said, I think as an industry we have the potential to be the linchpin of the clean energy transition as we think about the potential for sector coupling and potential for power to X. We produce and distribute, store thermal energy, and doing that at scale adds a lot of value to the clean energy transition. So from an investment standpoint, we are in a good spot. Right. From a recruiting and retention standpoint, one of the things that we talk about at Evergreen Energy, and I'm sure the common story across many of the companies here, the work that we do on a day-to-day basis is really important. We're people, serving communities with reliable energy, and there's a sense of duty that comes along with that, a sense of pride that I think is inherent to our industry. Right. And with that too, thinking about how we're evolving as an industry, how we're modernizing energy systems, the work that we're doing in reducing emissions and improving efficiency in advancing our energy systems is important for the communities that we serve today and important for those communities tomorrow as we think about the impacts of climate change. So I think from a recruiting and retention standpoint, that really factors into.
So not only can you make a difference, you can make a living. And yes, Earl.
Well, I was just going to mention, that, that's an excellent point. And, if I look across all of our employees, I mean, we have some operators that are, 40 going on 50 years with the company.
Right.
We can't forget that we've got to replace that. So the workforce development that you talked about, I think it's critical, and another thing where IDEA can actually add a lot of value.
Right, really create a magnet and pull and awareness, and I think we need to meet them where they are too, right? Carlisle, last thought from you as we bring it to close.
I think as an industry, and definitely I'm not going to say as an industry, as a company, because I'll speak for my company, we can use all the help we can get, obviously. So bright minds, young minds are amazing. We operate, I think undeniably as an industry, as commercial operators, as slim as we possibly can. We're not regulated. The bottom line is extremely important for us to maximize value, and we really think about, we have a business case for every new position. So anyone that can actually add value is important to come to the industry. But I really, when you think about it as a young person, and lots of people will ask advice as to what you should do, is the ability to make a difference, I think, is out there for everybody in every industry. And I want to make that clear, because the more people are out there making a difference on the other side of the negotiation, the less friction we're all going to have, if we're aligned to the same types of outcomes. And I think for young people these days, yes, it's great to come here. I'd love to see more of them out there, because we got a lot of them here too, and so that we can create an environment that we can actually get projects done, get things done, and collaborate. We find it's most effective when you have collaboration on the other side to create outcomes that maximize value for everyone. So.
Well, thank you very much. Really, I think we could have covered a whole day, and I want to please join me in thanking all of our panelists for being available. Well done. Thank you very much.